On morning rush hour, a black man rushing to the interview that could change his family's future, suddenly sees an elderly woman collapse on the sidewalk. Without a second thought, he sprints through traffic, carrying her to the nearest hospital. What he doesn't know is that this one act of kindness will change his life forever. Before we dive deeper into this story, let us know where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe for more heartwarming stories every day. The morning air was cool when Marcus Johnson stepped outside, the kind of perfect autumn weather that made you grateful to be alive. The sky was clear, painted in soft oranges and pinks as the sun began its climb. The neighborhood was starting to wake up. Old Mr. Henderson was already on his porch, coffee in hand, watching the street come to life. He raised a hand in greeting, and Marcus waved back. "Big day today, Marcus," Mr. Henderson called out, his voice carrying across the quiet morning. "Yes, sir, job interview. The good kind. You'll do great, son, I know you will. You're a solid man. They'd be lucky to have you." Marcus smiled, though his stomach was twisting with nerves. "Thank you, sir, I appreciate that more than you know." He walked to the bus stop at the corner of Maple and 3rd, his dress shoes clicking on the sidewalk. They were uncomfortable, pinching his feet in places his work boots never did, and his ankle was already starting to send small warning twinges up his leg. But they looked professional, and that was what mattered. The bus arrived right on time, and Marcus climbed aboard, nodding to the driver, a heavy-set woman who drove this route every morning and always greeted her regulars with a smile. He found a seat near the middle and pulled out his phone, an old model with a cracked screen that he'd been nursing along for 3 years, and opened the Notes app where he typed out his talking points. Strengths: reliable, detail-oriented, experienced in logistics coordination, excellent problem solver. Weaknesses: perfectionist, sometimes spend too much time ensuring quality. Experience: 8 years managing supply chains and inventory on construction sites, tracking deliveries, coordinating with vendors. Marcus knew the script by heart, but seeing the words helped calm his racing thoughts. This was it. This was the opportunity he'd been waiting for, praying for. Thompson and Associates didn't just offer a job, they offered a future, medical coverage that would finally let him get his ankle properly evaluated by a specialist. Dental insurance, so Jasmine could get her teeth checked regularly. A retirement plan, paid time off, things that other people took for granted, but that felt like impossible luxuries to Marcus. Marcus checked his watch again. 8:10. Perfect timing. He'd be there with 50 minutes to spare, enough time to find the building, locate the right office, maybe use the restroom to check his appearance one more time, take a few deep breaths, center himself. The bus slowed to a stop at 5th and Market, and Marcus stood, gripping the folder tightly as he made his way to the front. His ankle protested as he stepped down from the bus, always worse in the mornings, always taking those first few steps to warm up, but he pushed the discomfort aside. Not today. Today nothing would slow him down. The Thompson building was just down the block, a sleek glass structure that reflected the morning sun like a beacon. This was his chance to change everything. To give Patricia and Jasmine the life they deserved, to prove to himself that the accident hadn't defined him, that he still had value, that he was more than his injury. He was about halfway down the block, maybe 200 feet from the building's entrance, when movement caught his eye. An elderly woman was walking on the sidewalk ahead of him, coming from the opposite direction. She was small and frail, dressed in a white dress with tiny floral patterns and a thin cream-colored cardigan. She carried 2 shopping bags, their weight clearly too much for her thin arms. One bag was slipping from her grasp, and as Marcus watched, she tried to adjust her grip. The bag fell. The woman reached for it, bending quickly, and her legs buckled. She was going down, her body tilting dangerously toward the concrete. Marcus didn't think, he just moved. He dropped his folder on a nearby bench and ran toward her, ignoring the sharp protest from his ankle, his dress shoes slapping hard against the pavement. The elderly woman was falling, her hands grasping at empty air, and Marcus reached her just in time to catch her under her arms, holding her upright. Ma'am, I've got you." His voice was urgent but gentle, the same tone he used when Jasmine woke up from a bad dream. The woman's breathing was rapid and shallow, her chest heaving with effort. She tried to speak, but no words came out, only a gasping sound that sent a spike of fear through Marcus's heart. Her eyes were wide, confused, darting around as if she couldn't quite focus on anything. Her face had gone pale, almost gray. "It's okay, you're okay, I've got you," Marcus said, carefully supporting her weight, as he eased her toward the nearby wall of the building so she could lean against something solid. "Just breathe, ma'am." Nice and slow breaths. But her breathing wasn't slowing. If anything, it was getting worse, more labored. Her lips had a faint bluish tinge that Marcus recognized with a cold rush of fear. Her hand, when it gripped his arm, was cold and clammy, trembling. "Somebody call 911. Marcus shouted. "This woman needs help." A teenager with headphones around his neck pulled out his phone, nodding. "Yeah, okay, I'm calling. Tell them it might be a heart attack." Marcus called to him. Marcus's mind raced back to 2 years ago, when Mr. Henderson's brother George had collapsed right in front of the community center. Marcus had been there, had called 911, had waited those terrible 15 minutes. The paramedic had pulled him aside afterward. "You did good today," kept him calm, kept him sitting upright. With heart attacks, minutes matter. Every minute without treatment increases the damage. Minutes matter. Marcus looked down the street past the intersection. Mercy General Hospital, its emergency entrance clearly marked with bright red signs, sat at the corner. Maybe 300 feet away. The ambulance would take time, 5 minutes, maybe 10. But the hospital was right there. "Ma'am, I need you to listen to me," Marcus said firmly. "Can you hear me? Blink if you can hear me." She blinked once, twice. Good. She was conscious. "My name is Marcus. I can see a hospital right down the street. The ambulance is coming, but I think we need to move faster than that. I'm going to carry you there, okay?" She managed the smallest nod. The teenager jogged over. "They said the ambulance is coming, like 5 to 8 minutes. Thank you. Tell them we're going to Mercy General Emergency. We'll meet them there." Marcus looked around for help. A security guard from a nearby building had stopped to watch. "Sir, can you grab her bags, and my folder? It's on that bench over there." "Please?" Sure, the guard said, hurrying to collect the items. Marcus took a deep breath. His ankle was already protesting. But pain didn't matter. Not now. "Ma'am, I'm going to pick you up now. Try to relax. We're going to get you help." Marcus slid one arm under her knees and the other around her back, lifting her as gently as he could. She was lighter than he expected, but the movement made her whimper softly. I know, he murmured. "I'm sorry, just hold on." He started walking as quickly as he dared toward the intersection. His ankle immediately flared with pain, sharp and hot, radiating up his leg with each step. Sweat broke out on his forehead. Dust from when he'd lunged to catch her earlier clung to his blazer and pants. The security guard jogged alongside him, carrying the shopping bags and Marcus's folder. "You're doing great, man, just keep going." People were stopping now, watching, some pulling out phones. Marcus focused on putting one foot in front of the other, on keeping Eleanor stable, on not dropping her. His ankle was screaming now, each step sending bolts of pain shooting through his leg. The elderly woman's eyes were closing. No, stay with me," Marcus said firmly. "What's your name? Can you tell me your name?" Her lips moved, barely a whisper. "Eleanor. Eleanor, that's a beautiful name. You stay with me, Eleanor. See that building with the red signs? That's Mercy General. We're going to get you help." He was at the intersection now. The light was red, traffic was flowing. Marcus didn't care. He stepped off the curb, and immediately cars started honking, but a pickup truck in the nearest lane screeched to a stop, the driver waving him across urgently. Go, the driver yelled through his window. Marcus crossed as fast as his failing ankle would allow, the security guard running ahead to stop traffic in the other lane. Half a block more. 100 feet. 50. Marcus's vision was starting to blur at the edges, his breath coming in ragged gasps. His ankle felt like it was being stabbed with every step, but Eleanor was still breathing, still conscious, still holding on, and then they were there. The emergency entrance to Mercy General, its automatic doors sliding open. "We need help," Marcus called out. "Heart attack. She can't breathe." A nurse looked up from reception, eyes widening. She was moving immediately, pressing buttons, speaking rapidly. Within seconds, more nurses appeared with a wheelchair. Marcus carefully lowered the woman into it. "Her name's Eleanor," he said, the words tumbling out. "She collapsed on 5th and Market, maybe 5 minutes ago. Trouble breathing, Pale, cold skin, lips turning blue. I kept her upright, tried to keep her calm. A middle-aged nurse with kind eyes nodded. You did exactly right. Keeping her upright was smart. How long was she down? Maybe 30 seconds before I caught her. Then her breathing got worse, so I brought her here. Good. That's very good. You may have saved her life. She studied him, taking in his sweat-soaked shirt, his trembling arms, how he favored his left leg. Are you family? No, I found her. I couldn't leave her. They were wheeling Eleanor through double doors. Marcus caught one last glimpse of her face, her eyes finding his, and he saw gratitude there, and fear, and trust. Then the doors swung shut. Marcus stood in the emergency room, his heart pounding so hard he could feel it in his temples, his breath coming fast and shallow. His arms were shaking from the exertion, his ankle was screaming, his entire body felt like it had been through a battle. His shirt was soaked through with sweat, his blazer was dusty and askew, one of the buttons hanging by a thread. He could see dirt smudges on his pants, could feel grit on his hands. The security guard appeared beside him, setting down Eleanor's shopping bags and handing Marcus his folder. You okay, man? You look like you're about to pass out. I'm fine. Just is she going to be okay? They've got her now. You got her here fast. That's what matters. Marcus's phone was buzzing in his pocket. He ignored it. Then he looked at his watch. 8:56. His interview was in 4 minutes. No, he whispered. No. The Thompson building was 3 blocks away. Even if he ran, which his ankle absolutely could not do right now, he'd never make it in time. And even if he did, he looked like he'd been in a fight. Disheveled, sweaty, dirty. Not exactly the professional image he'd so carefully cultivated. But he had to try. He had to at least call them, explain, ask for understanding. Marcus pulled out his phone with shaking hands and dialed the number for Thompson and Associates, the one he'd saved in his contacts 5 days ago, when they'd called to schedule the interview. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Come on. Thompson and Associates, this is Jennifer speaking. How may I help you? Hi, yes, this is Marcus Johnson. I have an interview at 9 o'clock with Mr. Peterson in Human Resources, but I'm running late. There was an emergency, a medical emergency, and Mr. Johnson. The woman's voice turned cold, professional in the worst way. Mr. Peterson's interviews are always punctual. He has a very tight schedule this morning. I understand, ma'am, I do, but there was an elderly woman who collapsed on the street, and I couldn't just leave her. I brought her to the hospital, and I'm still here making sure she's Mr. Johnson. The woman cut him off, her tone making it clear she'd heard enough. I'm sure that's a very compelling story, but Mr. Peterson has made it abundantly clear that punctuality is a key indicator of professionalism and reliability. If you can't make it to the interview on time, then perhaps Thompson and Associates isn't the right fit for you. Marcus felt his chest tighten, felt everything he'd hoped for slipping away. Please, I'm begging you, I can be there in 15 minutes, 20 at most. This job means everything to my family. I have a 6-year-old daughter, and my wife works 2 jobs just to keep us afloat. I need this opportunity. Please. There was a pause. For one hopeful moment, Marcus thought she might relent. I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Peterson has already started his next meeting. We simply can't accommodate lateness. Perhaps you can apply again in 6 months. Thank you for your interest in Thompson and Associates. The line went dead. Marcus stood there, phone still pressed to his ear, staring at nothing. Everything he'd worked for, everything he'd hoped for, everything his family needed, gone. Vanished in the time it took to help someone, to do the right thing. Mr. Johnson. Marcus looked up. A doctor in blue scrubs stood before him, clipboard in hand. She looked to be in her early 30s, intelligent eyes behind her glasses, calm but alert. Yes, I'm Dr. Martinez. I wanted to thank you personally, and give you an update. The woman you brought in, Mrs. Eleanor Hartwell, suffered a major cardiac event. If you hadn't acted as quickly as you did, she might not have survived the trip here. Marcus swallowed. Is she going to be okay? She's stable now. We've started medication to dissolve the clot and regulate her rhythm. Her prognosis is good. Relief washed over him. He exhaled, finally allowing his shoulders to drop. That's good. I'm glad. Dr. Martinez noticed the limp, the dust on his blazer, the sweat on his collar. You look exhausted. Please sit down a moment. Can I get you some water? No thank you, I'm fine. Just glad she's safe. "You did something remarkable today," she said. "Most people would have called for help and kept walking. You didn't." Marcus gave a small shrug. "I just did what anyone should do." "Maybe," the doctor said softly, "but you were the one who actually did." She hesitated, then added, "I'd like to note your contact information for our records, just in case we need a follow-up statement for her file. Is that all right?" Of course. Marcus recited his name and number, and she wrote it neatly on the corner of her clipboard. "Thank you, Dr. Martinez said. "We'll keep you updated if there's anything further. And Mr. Johnson, what you did today made a difference. You should know that." Marcus nodded once, his voice quiet. "That's all I need to hear." The doctor lingered a moment longer, glancing at his clothes. "Were you on your way somewhere before this happened? You look like you were headed to something important." Marcus hesitated. "A job interview." 9 o'clock. She looked up at the wall clock. 9:15, and her expression softened with quiet understanding. "I see." He managed a small smile that didn't reach his eyes. "It's fine. She's alive. That's what matters." "It does," Dr. Martinez said gently. "And we'll take good care of her. I promise." "Thank you, doctor. We will." "And Mr. Johnson, there are good people in this world who recognize and value character. Don't give up hope." Marcus nodded, not trusting himself to speak, and walked out of the hospital into the morning sunshine that now felt too bright, too cheerful for what had just happened. He stood on the sidewalk for a moment, looking back toward the Thompson building 3 blocks away, its glass facade gleaming in the sunlight, mocking him with its proximity. He'd been so close, so damn close. His ankle was throbbing worse now, the adrenaline fading and leaving only pain in its wake. His shirt was still damp with sweat, clinging uncomfortably to his skin. He could see his reflection in a nearby window, disheveled, dirty, defeated. Marcus started walking, not toward the Thompson building. There was no point now, but just away. Away from the hospital, away from the scene of his choice, away from everything. He walked for several blocks, barely registering where he was going, his mind a chaotic swirl of anger and regret and bitter acceptance. He found himself at Riverside Park, one of those small green spaces the city maintained between neighborhoods. There was a bench near the entrance, and Marcus sat down heavily, his ankle grateful for the rest, his whole body sagging with exhaustion and despair. Just a few hours ago, Marcus stood before the bathroom mirror in his small apartment, his calloused fingers working slowly to button up his pale blue dress shirt. The fabric was worn thin at the collar, and there was a faint stain near the bottom that no amount of scrubbing could remove, but it was the best he had. He'd ironed it the night before, twice, making sure every crease was sharp, every wrinkle smoothed away. "Tell me about a time when you overcame a challenge," he murmured to his reflection, practicing the words he'd rehearsed 100 times. His deep voice echoed softly in the tiny bathroom. "Well, sir, after my accident at the construction site, I had to completely rebuild my career path." He paused, shaking his head. "Too negative. Start with the positive." He tried again. "I believe my greatest strength is my adaptability. When I faced setbacks in my career, I learned to." At 34 years old, he'd been to more job interviews than he cared to count. Marcus had worked construction for 8 years before the accident. A fall from scaffolding had left him with a shattered ankle and 6 months of physical therapy. The workers' compensation had barely covered the medical bills, and the construction company had let him go the moment the doctor cleared him for light duty only. They needed men who could climb, who could carry heavy loads, who didn't wince when they put weight on their right foot. He'd tried everything since then. Warehouse work that aggravated his ankle after 8-hour shifts, delivery driving that paid barely minimum wage, stocking shelves at the grocery store, where managers always chose the younger, faster workers for more hours. Nothing had lasted, nothing had offered benefits, and with a 6-year-old daughter and a wife working 2 jobs to keep them afloat, Marcus felt the pressure crushing down on him every single day. But Thompson and Associates was different. They'd actually called him back after seeing his application. They'd scheduled this interview. The recruiter had even mentioned that the company valued dedication and character over physical capabilities for their coordinator positions. It was exactly what Marcus needed, a desk job that utilized his logistics experience from the construction site, with benefits that would finally let Patricia cut back to one job, that would give Jasmine the stability she deserved. But now he has missed that great opportunity. In spite of, he'd done the right thing. He knew he had. Eleanor would have died on that sidewalk if he'd just walked past her, if he'd prioritized his interview over her life. But the right thing had cost him everything. The job, the benefits, the chance to provide for his family the way they deserved, the way they needed. His phone buzzed, a text from Patricia. How did it go? Tell me everything. Marcus stared at the message, his thumb hovering over the keyboard. He could lie, could tell her he was still in the interview, by himself a few hours before having to deliver the bad news, could pretend just a little longer that everything was going to be okay, but he'd never lied to Patricia, not in 8 years of marriage, not through the accident, through the unemployment, through the hardest times. They'd faced everything together, honestly, even when the truth hurt. He typed back, "It didn't happen. I'll explain when I get home." 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, "Okay, I love you too," Marcus typed back. He sat on that bench for nearly 4 hours, watching people walk by with their purposeful strides, their coffee cups and briefcases, their lives that seemed so ordered and certain. He thought about calling other companies, about starting the job search all over again from square one. He thought about how to tell Jasmine that Daddy didn't get the job, that things weren't going to get easier anytime soon. He thought about the look on Patricia's face when she came home exhausted from her double shift and learned that nothing was going to change, that they were still trapped in this endless cycle of barely getting by. Mostly, he thought about Eleanor's face, pale and frightened, her labored breathing, the trust in her eyes when he told her he'd get her help, and he knew even with everything it had cost him, that he'd made the only choice he could live with. Around noon his ankles started to stiffen up from sitting too long. Marcus forced himself to stand, wincing at the sharp pain that shot up his leg, and started the long journey home. The bus ride felt twice as long as usual, every stop an eternity, every familiar landmark a reminder of the morning's hopes and the afternoon's reality. It was just after 2 o'clock when he finally climbed the stairs to his apartment, favoring his good leg, gripping the railing tighter than usual. He could hear voices inside, Patricia's and Jasmine's. His daughter was home early, he'd forgotten it was a half day at school for teacher development. Marcus paused with his hand on the doorknob, trying to compose his face into something that wouldn't immediately broadcast his devastation. But even as he tried, he knew it was pointless. Patricia would see through any mask he tried to wear, she always did. The door opened before he could turn the knob. Patricia stood there, still in her cleaning uniform, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. Her expression shifted the moment she saw his face, concern, understanding, and something that looked like fierce protectiveness all at once. "Come inside," she said softly, reaching for his hand. "Tell me everything." Marcus stood in the doorway of their apartment, Patricia's hand in his, and felt something inside him crack open. He wasn't a man who cried easily. Years of being told to be strong, to be the provider, to shoulder burdens without complaint had taught him to keep his emotions locked down tight. But standing there, seeing the unconditional support in Patricia's eyes, even before she knew what had happened, the weight of the morning finally broke through his defenses. "I ruined it," he whispered. "I had the interview and I ruined everything." Patricia pulled him inside and closed the door behind him. "Come sit down. Tell me what happened." She guided him to their small couch, the one they'd bought used from a neighbor 5 years ago, its cushions worn but still comfortable. Marcus sat heavily, his ankle throbbing, and Patricia sat beside him, taking his hand in both of hers. "Start from the beginning," she said gently. So Marcus told her, about leaving the apartment full of hope, about the perfect autumn morning, about the bus ride and his careful planning. About Eleanor on the sidewalk, about the way people walked past her like she was invisible, about his split-second decision to help instead of walking into the most important interview of his life. "She was dying, P." Marcus said, his voice rough with emotion. "I could see it in her face. She couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, her lips were turning blue, and everyone just kept walking. Like she was invisible, like her life didn't matter because they had places to be." "So you stopped," Patricia said softly. "I had to. I thought about calling 911 and waiting, but I remembered what that paramedic told me after we helped George Henderson's brother. Minutes matter with heart attacks. The hospital was right there, just down the street past the intersection. So I picked her up and carried her." Patricia's eyes widened slightly. With your ankle, it hurt like hell. Still does. Marcus gestured at his elevated foot, which Patricia had insisted he prop up on the coffee table the moment they sat down. But what else was I supposed to do? Let her die on the sidewalk while I walked into my interview? I couldn't do that, P. I couldn't. Patricia squeezed his hand. Of course you couldn't. What time was your interview? 9 o'clock. I got Eleanor to the hospital at 8:56. 4 minutes. You were 4 minutes away from making it. I know. I waited to make sure she was stable, to make sure the doctors had her, to make sure her family was being contacted. And I called Thompson and Associates, tried to explain what happened, tried to ask for just a little understanding, just a few minutes grace. Marcus shook his head bitterly. The receptionist wouldn't even let me finish, said punctuality was a key indicator of professionalism, said they had other candidates, said maybe I could apply again in 6 months. Patricia's jaw tightened. They didn't even ask what happened. She said it was a compelling story, but they couldn't accommodate lateness. Like it was just an excuse. Like I was lying. The anger he'd been holding back finally broke through. I saved someone's life, Patricia. I did the right thing. And I got punished for it. You didn't get punished. You faced a choice between your needs and someone else's life. You chose life. That's not punishment. That's integrity. Integrity doesn't pay the bills. No, it doesn't. But would you really want to work for a company that valued being on time more than saving someone's life? Marcus pulled his hand away, frustration boiling over. Yes, I would. Because we need the money, P. We need the insurance. We need stability. And I threw it all away for a stranger. She wasn't a stranger after you helped her. She was a person whose life you saved. And what about our life? What about Jasmine's life? What about giving you a break from working yourself to death? Marcus stood up despite his ankle's protest, pacing. I sat in that park for nearly 4 hours, trying to figure out how to come home and tell you I failed again. How to tell Jasmine that Daddy still can't afford the things she needs. How to look at my wife who works 2 jobs and tell her it's going to keep being this hard because I chose to help a stranger instead of securing our future. Marcus, don't tell me I did the right thing. I know I did the right thing. But knowing that doesn't make it hurt any less. Doesn't make me feel any less like a failure. You're not a failure. Patricia's voice was firm now, the tone she used when she needed him to really hear her. Look at me, Marcus. He stopped pacing and met her eyes, those warm brown eyes that had seen him through everything, that had never looked at him with anything less than love and respect even when he couldn't provide the way he wanted to. You did the right thing, Patricia said clearly, the only thing. The thing that makes you the man I married, the man I respect, the man I want raising our daughter. You saw someone who needed help and you helped them. That's who you are. That's who you've always been. But the job was just a job. There will be other jobs. Will there? Marcus heard the defeat in his own voice. How many interviews have I been to in the last 3 years? How many resumes have I sent out? This was different, P. This was the one that could have changed everything. Maybe it wasn't meant to be. Marcus turned away. Don't give me platitudes. Not today. Patricia was quiet for a moment, then stood and walked over to him. You want honesty? Fine. I'm terrified. I'm exhausted. I want Jasmine to have the things other kids have. I want to not worry about whether we can afford groceries and rent in the same month. I want you to not be in pain every day from pushing your ankle beyond what it can handle. Her voice cracked slightly. I want things to be easier. Marcus turned back to face her, shocked by the raw admission. But Patricia continued, her eyes shining with tears. I would rather struggle with a man who has integrity than live comfortably with someone who could walk past a dying woman to make it to a meeting on time. Because if you had done that, if you had walked past her, you wouldn't be the man I married anymore. You'd be someone else, someone I wouldn't recognize. That's easy to say now. No, it's not. It's the hardest thing I've ever said, because I'm scared too, Marcus. I'm scared we'll never get ahead, that we'll always be one emergency away from disaster. But I'm more scared of losing you to bitterness, to compromising who you are just to get by. She reached up and touched his face. You're a good man. Don't let one closed door make you forget that. Marcus felt his anger draining away, replaced by exhaustion and a crushing sense of defeat. I thought about lying to you. In the park, I thought about telling you the interview went fine and they'd call in a few days, just to give us both a little more time before reality hit. But you didn't. I couldn't. I've never lied to you. I know, that's part of why I love you. Patricia pulled him into a hug, and Marcus wrapped his arms around her, holding on like she was the only stable thing in a world that kept shifting beneath his feet. They stood like that for a while, the afternoon sun streaming through their apartment windows, the sounds of the neighborhood filtering in from outside. Gradually Marcus felt the tension in his shoulders start to ease, the tight knot in his chest loosening slightly. "What am I going to tell Jasmine?" he asked quietly, his chin resting on top of Patricia's head. "The truth, that her daddy is a hero who saved someone's life. And when she asks if I got the job, we'll tell her no. And we'll tell her that sometimes doing the right thing costs us something. But we do it anyway because that's what good people do. She's 6p, she won't understand that. You'd be surprised what she understands. She's smarter than we give her credit for." As if summoned by her name, the bedroom door opened, and Jasmine emerged, rubbing sleep from her eyes. She'd apparently been napping since coming home from school. She was wearing her favorite purple pajamas, her hair sticking up in the back, looking small and vulnerable and perfect. "Daddy," her face lit up when she saw him, and she ran over, launching herself at him with the complete trust of a child who believes her father can catch anything. Marcus caught her automatically despite his aching ankle, pulling her close and breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. "Hey baby girl, did you have a good morning at school?" "Yeah, we learned about monarch butterflies and how they fly all the way to Mexico. That's like super far." She pulled back to look at his face, her expression suddenly concerned. "Daddy, why do you look sad? Did you get the job? Are we going to be rich?" Marcus and Patricia exchanged glances over Jasmine's head. Patricia nodded encouragingly. "Baby, I need to tell you something," Marcus said, settling onto the couch with Jasmine on his lap. Patricia sat beside them, her hand on his shoulder. "I didn't get the job." Jasmine's smile faltered. "Why not? Did you forget your answers?" "No, actually I didn't make it to the interview at all." "What happened?" Marcus took a breath. "On my way there I saw an old lady who was very sick. Really sick. She fell down on the sidewalk, and she couldn't breathe right, and her lips were turning blue. Lots of people walked right past her, but I couldn't do that. So I helped her." Jasmine's eyes had gone wide. "Was she okay?" "She is now. I carried her to the hospital, and the doctors took care of her. They told me that if I hadn't helped her right away, she might have died." "You saved her life." Jasmine's voice was full of awe. "I did. But because I helped her, I was late to my interview. And the company said they couldn't wait for me. So I didn't get the job." Jasmine was quiet for a moment, her small face serious as she processed this information. Then she said, "But the lady was dying, Daddy." "Yes, she was. So you had to help her, even though you wanted the job really bad." "Yes." Jasmine nodded slowly, as if this made perfect sense to her 6-year-old logic. "That's what heroes do, Daddy. In my superhero books they always help people even when it's hard. Even when they have other stuff to do. That's what makes them heroes." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "I'm not a hero, baby. I just did what anyone should do." "But you said lots of people walked past her. They didn't help." "You did. That makes you a hero." She hugged him tightly, her small arms around his neck. "I'm proud of you, Daddy, even if we don't get to go to Disney World." Marcus hugged her back, this perfect little girl who somehow understood what mattered better than most adults. "Thank you, baby girl. That means more to me than you know. Can I have a snack now?" The abrupt change of subject made both Marcus and Patricia laugh, breaking the emotional tension. That was Jasmine, deep philosophical thoughts one moment, immediate practical concerns the next. "Go ahead," Patricia said, standing. "But just one cookie. We're having an early dinner tonight." Jasmine scrambled off Marcus's lap and headed to the kitchen. Patricia watched her go, then turned back to Marcus. "See, she gets it. She understands what's important. She's smarter than I am." "No, she just hasn't been beaten down by the world yet. She still knows instinctively what we sometimes forget, that helping people matters more than any job." Patricia held out her hand. "Come on, you need to get out of those clothes, take a shower, ice that ankle. Tomorrow we'll figure out next steps. Tonight we're just going to be together as a family. I can't just rest. I need to start looking for other jobs. Need to tomorrow, Marcus. Today you saved a woman's life. Today you showed your daughter what kind of man her father is. Today you proved to your wife that she married someone with integrity." Patricia's voice was gentle but firm. "That's enough for one day. Let yourself rest. Marcus wanted to argue, wanted to push back, wanted to jump immediately into fixing the situation. But the truth was, he was exhausted. His ankle was throbbing, his entire body ached from carrying Eleanor and from the emotional toll of the morning, and he felt completely wrung out. "Okay," he said finally. "Tomorrow." He took a long hot shower, letting the water wash away the sweat and grime from the morning. His ankle was swollen, so he wrapped it in an ice pack. Patricia brought him and elevated it on the coffee table. She made him tea and brought him 2 ibuprofen, fussing over him in a way that felt both comforting and slightly embarrassing. That evening, they had a simple dinner together at their small kitchen table: spaghetti with marinara sauce, garlic bread from the discount bakery, and a salad. It wasn't fancy, but it was good, and they were together. Jasmine chattered about her morning at school, about the monarch butterfly's migration patterns, about her friend Emma's new kitten. Marcus and Patricia listened, asked questions, laughed at her dramatic storytelling. After dinner, they watched a movie together, all 3 of them squeezed onto the couch with a bowl of popcorn. Jasmine fell asleep halfway through, her head on Marcus's shoulder, her breathing soft and even. He carried her to bed despite Patricia's protests that he should rest his ankle, tucked her in, and kissed her forehead. "Love you, Daddy," she mumbled, half asleep. "Love you too, baby girl. More than anything in this world." When he came back to the living room, Patricia was putting away the popcorn bowl and straightening the cushions. Marcus helped her, and they moved around the small space in comfortable silence, the rhythm of 8 years of partnership. "Thank you," Marcus said as they finished. "For what?" "For not being angry, for understanding, for being you." Patricia came over and wrapped her arms around his waist, looking up at him. "Marcus Johnson, I didn't marry you because I thought you'd make lots of money, or have an impressive job title. I married you because you're a good man, because you treat people with dignity, because you have a heart that you try to hide behind all that practicality, but it shows through anyway. What you did today didn't surprise me one bit. It's exactly who you are. I just wish being a good person paid the bills." "Me too, but we'll figure it out. We always do." She pulled him toward their bedroom. "Now come on, you need real rest, your ankle needs time to recover." They lay in bed, Patricia curled against his side, and Marcus stared at the ceiling in the darkness. His mind kept replaying the morning. Eleanor's frightened face, the cold dismissal from the Thompson receptionist, the 3 hours in the park, wondering if he'd made the biggest mistake of his life. But then he thought about what Dr. Martinez had said. "You saved her life." He thought about Jasmine calling him a hero. He thought about Patricia saying she was proud of him for doing the right thing. Maybe doing the right thing did cost him something. Maybe it cost him a lot, but it hadn't cost him everything. He still had his family, he still had his integrity, he still had the knowledge that when faced with an impossible choice, he'd chosen to help someone who needed it. That had to count for something. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. Marcus almost ignored it. It was nearly 11, too late for anything good, but something made him check. Unknown number, a voicemail. Marcus played it quietly, keeping the volume low so as not to wake Patricia. "Mr. Johnson, this is Dr. Martinez from Mercy General. I hope it's all right that I'm calling so late. I wanted to give you an update on Mrs. Hartwell. She's doing very well, stable and resting comfortably in our cardiac unit. Her son arrived this afternoon, and when I told him what you did, how you literally carried his mother to safety and may have saved her life." The doctor's voice was warm with emotion. "He was very moved, Mr. Johnson. Very grateful. He asked me to pass along his deepest thanks, and he said he'd like to speak with you personally if possible. I gave him your number. I hope that's all right. Anyway, I wanted you to know that what you did today made a real difference. Mrs. Hartwell is going to go home to her family because of you. That's not nothing, Mr. Johnson. That's everything. Take care." Marcus lay there in the dark, Patricia's breathing soft and steady beside him, and felt something shift inside him. Eleanor was okay. She was going to go home to her family. Her son wanted to thank him personally. He didn't know what would come of that. Didn't know if anything would. But for the first time since he'd sat on that park bench, Marcus felt like maybe, just maybe, doing the right thing hadn't cost him everything after all. He closed his eyes, pulled Patricia a little closer, and let himself sleep. The next 3 weeks and 5 days passed in a familiar rhythm of struggle and determination. Marcus spent his mornings at the public library, applying for every position even remotely suitable: warehouse supervisor, logistics coordinator, office administrator, customer service manager, inventory specialist. His afternoons were filled with odd jobs around the neighborhood, fixing Mrs. Williams's leaky kitchen sink, helping Mr. Henderson repaint his living room, moving furniture for a young couple who just bought a house 2 streets over, patching a roof for the Rodriguez family. The work paid a little, $20 here, $40 there, enough to help with groceries and keep them afloat, but it was a far cry from the stability Thompson and Associates would have provided. Patricia had picked up extra shifts at the diner, coming home with her feet aching and her back sore, but never complaining. Marcus hated seeing the exhaustion in her eyes, the way she'd sit down after her shift and just stare at nothing for a few minutes before summoning the energy to help Jasmine with homework or start dinner. Jasmine seemed fine on the surface, still her cheerful self, but Marcus noticed the small changes. When her class announced a field trip to the Science Museum that cost $25, she'd mentioned it once and then never brought it up again. When Marcus had grimaced and said they'd have to see, 6 years old, and already learning to manage her expectations, to protect her parents from her own wants. It broke Marcus's heart a little more each day. His ankle was better after nearly 4 weeks of relative rest. No more long treks carrying elderly women to hospitals, but it still ached by evening. Still reminded him every day of the accident that had derailed his construction career, and the choice that had cost him his chance at Thompson and Associates. On a Thursday afternoon, exactly 3 weeks and 5 days after the morning with Eleanor, Marcus was replacing a broken step on the Hendersons' front porch when his phone rang. Unknown number, but local area code, probably spam, but he answered anyway. Sometimes it was actually a potential employer. "Hello? Is this Marcus Johnson?" A man's voice, deep and cultured, with a tone that suggested education and authority. "Yes, this is Marcus, Mr. Johnson. My name is William Hartwell. I believe you helped my mother, Eleanor Hartwell, about 3.5 weeks ago when she had a cardiac episode on 5th Street. Marcus nearly dropped his hammer. Eleanor's son, Dr. Martinez, had said he might call, but that had been nearly 4 weeks ago. Marcus had assumed the man had been too busy or had forgotten. "Yes, sir, I did. How is your mother doing?" "She's recovering beautifully, thank God. The doctors say she'll make a full recovery with some medication adjustments and lifestyle changes." "Mr. Johnson, I cannot adequately express my gratitude for what you did. According to multiple medical professionals, you saved my mother's life. I'm just glad I was there, sir. Anyone would have done the same." "That's where you're wrong, Mr. Johnson." William's voice had a hard edge now. "We reviewed security footage from nearby buildings. At least 31 people walked past my mother before you stopped. 31 people who saw an elderly woman in distress and decided their morning coffee or their meeting or whatever they had going on was more important than a human life." Marcus didn't know what to say to that. "Dr. Martinez told me you were on your way to a job interview that morning." William continued, "That you were late because you helped my mother, and that the company refused to accommodate you." "Yes, sir, Thompson and Associates. I understand they have their policies. Their policies are short-sighted and reveal a fundamental lack of humanity." There was steel in William's voice now. What kind of organization prioritizes punctuality over human decency? What kind of values does that represent? And what kind of fool lets a man with your character slip through their fingers over 4 minutes? Marcus felt a flicker of vindication, though he kept his voice neutral. "I appreciate you saying that, sir, but they didn't know the circumstances. Because they didn't care to know. They made a judgment based on a single data point, and dismissed a man who clearly has more character and integrity than their entire HR department combined." William paused, and his voice softened. "Mr. Johnson, I apologize for taking so long to reach out. I've been traveling on business for the past 3 weeks, unavoidable commitments I made months ago. But you've been on my mind constantly. Would you be willing to meet with me, tomorrow, if possible? I'd like to thank you properly, and I'd also like to discuss something that might be of mutual benefit." Marcus's pulse quickened. "Of course, sir. When and where
Are you available tomorrow afternoon? Say 2 o'clock. My office is downtown, Hartwell Enterprises on 3rd and Market. Hartwell Enterprises. Marcus couldn't keep the surprise out of his voice. Hartwell Enterprises was huge, one of the largest real estate and investment firms in the state. William Hartwell wasn't just Eleanor's son, he was a major player in the business community. Yes, I realize it's short notice, but I'd really like to meet you as soon as possible. I've been thinking about this conversation for weeks, and now that I'm back in town, I don't want to wait any longer. Tomorrow at 2 works perfectly, sir. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. My assistant will send you a text with the details, parking information, and which floor to come to. I'm looking forward to meeting you. Likewise, sir. Marcus sat on the Hendersons' porch after the call ended, his phone still in his hand, trying to process what had just happened. William Hartwell wanted to meet with him, wanted to discuss something of mutual benefit. What could that possibly mean? Mr. Henderson opened his front door, looking down at Marcus with concern. You all right, son? You've been sitting there staring at that phone for 5 minutes. Sorry, Mr. Henderson. I just got a call from Eleanor Hartwell's son, the woman I helped. The heart attack lady. How's she doing? Recovering well, apparently. Her son wants to meet with me tomorrow. Mr. Henderson's eyebrows rose. William Hartwell, the real estate magnate. You know who he is. Everyone knows who he is. Marcus. Hartwell Enterprises owns half the commercial property in this city. The man's a successful businessman. Mr. Henderson studied Marcus's face. What does he want with you? He said he wants to thank me properly and discuss something that might benefit both of us. I don't know what that means. Well, when a successful businessman says he wants to discuss something mutually beneficial, you don't overthink it. You show up, you listen, and you see what he has to say. Mr. Henderson smiled. Finish that step first though. I've still got to pay you for the work. Marcus finished the repair in a daze, his mind spinning with possibilities and fears. When he got home that evening, Patricia was already there, having gotten off her morning diner shift and finishing before her evening office cleaning job started. She was helping Jasmine with her reading homework. You look strange, Patricia said, studying his face. Good strange or bad strange? I honestly don't know. Eleanor's son called, William Hartwell. Patricia's eyes widened. The Hartwell Enterprises. William Hartwell, apparently. He wants to meet with me tomorrow afternoon. Says he wants to thank me properly and discuss something mutually beneficial. What do you think he means? No idea. Maybe he wants to give me a reward, some kind of thank you gift. Marcus shook his head. I don't know, P. I don't want to get my hopes up, but you are hoping. I can't help it. What if this leads to something? Patricia stood and came over to him, taking his hands. Then it does, and if it doesn't, we'll keep doing what we're doing. But Marcus, you're allowed to hope. You're allowed to think that maybe, just maybe, good things can happen to good people. Jasmine looked up from her book. Is that the lady Daddy saved? Her son baby. He wants to meet Daddy. Is he nice? I hope so, Marcus said, and he realized it was true. He did hope. Despite everything, despite 3 years of disappointments and closed doors, he still had the capacity to hope that this time might be different. That night, Marcus pulled out his interview clothes again, checking them over with Patricia. She'd washed and pressed everything, and they looked as good as they were going to get. Mr. Henderson had heard about the meeting, and had insisted Marcus keep the burgundy silk tie his son Michael had worn to college graduation. You made a good impression on that old man, Patricia said as Marcus tried on the blazer again, making sure it fit properly. He never talks about Michael, not since he died. For him to give you something of his son's, that means something. I just helped with some repairs.
You did more than that. You treated him with respect. You listened to his stories. You made him feel valued. Patricia adjusted the tie. That's what you do, Marcus. You see people, you treat everyone with dignity, whether they're William Hartwell or Mr. Henderson or a dying woman on a sidewalk. That's who you are. Friday afternoon arrived with Marcus feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness that reminded him of the Thompson interview, though this felt different somehow. Less desperate, more curious. He dressed carefully, Patricia fussing over every detail, making sure his shoes were polished and his collar was straight. Jasmine was at school, so it was just the two of them in the quiet apartment. "You look good," Patricia said, stepping back to survey her work. "Professional, confident, like a man who knows his worth." "I don't know about that last part." "Well, you should. William Hartwell already knows it, that's why he wants to meet you." She kissed him softly. "Go see what he has to say. And Marcus, whatever happens, I'm proud of you." Marcus took the bus downtown, watching the familiar city roll past the windows. His ankle was only mildly sore today, a good sign. The weather was beautiful again, autumn in full display with leaves turning gold and orange, the air crisp and clean. Hartwell Enterprises occupied the top 5 floors of a modern building in the financial district. The lobby was all polished marble and contemporary art, the kind of place where Marcus immediately felt out of place despite his careful grooming. But the security guard directed him to the elevators with a friendly smile, and the receptionist on the 28th floor greeted him warmly. "Marcus Johnson," he told her. "I have an appointment with Mr. Hartwell at 2 o'clock. "Yes, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Hartwell is expecting you. Please right this way." She led him down a hallway lined with photographs of properties, elegant apartment buildings, sprawling commercial complexes, restored historic buildings. At the end of the hall was a set of double doors, which she opened to reveal an office that took Marcus's breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city, offering a view that seemed to go on forever. A massive desk sat in the center of the room, and behind it stood a man who looked to be in his early 40s, with dark hair showing hints of gray at the temples, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Marcus made in 3 months of odd jobs. But it was his face that struck Marcus, intelligent and focused, yes, but with genuine warmth in his eyes that suggested he was more than just a ruthless businessman. "Mr. Johnson." William Hartwell came around the desk with his hand extended, and Marcus noticed he moved with the same purposeful grace his mother had probably possessed before age and illness had slowed her down. "Thank you so much for coming. I apologize again for taking so long to reach out. Business travel can't always be avoided, unfortunately." "Of course, sir. I'm just glad your mother is doing well." Marcus shook his hand, noting the firm grip, the direct eye contact that assessed without judging. "Please sit. Can I get you anything? Coffee? Water?" "Water would be great, thank you." William poured 2 glasses from a pitcher on a side table and handed one to Marcus before sitting across from him in a chair that matched the one Marcus occupied, deliberately not using the power dynamic of sitting behind his massive desk. "First and foremost," William said, and Marcus could hear genuine emotion in his voice, "I want to thank you for what you did for my mother. She means everything to me, Mr. Johnson. When I got that call from the hospital," he paused, his composed exterior cracking slightly. "I was in a meeting in Chicago, and they told me my mother had suffered a cardiac event and was in critical condition. I got on the first flight home, and the entire time I was thinking I might not make it in time to say goodbye. I'm so sorry you had to go through that, sir. But she survived. Because a stranger stopped to help when dozens of others walked past. Because you put her needs above your own. That's," William's voice thickened, "that's not something I can ever adequately repay, but I'd like to try." "Sir, you don't need to repay me for anything. I'm just glad I was there and that she's okay. May I ask you something personal, Mr. Johnson?" "Of course. Why did you stop?" "You had somewhere important to be. You didn't know my mother. You could have called 911 and kept walking, told yourself someone else would help. Why didn't you?" Marcus considered the question. "Honestly, sir, I didn't think about it. I just saw someone who needed help, and everything else became less important. My grandmother had a saying, you can tell a person's character by what they do when no one's looking and nothing's in it for them. I guess I wanted to be the kind of person she raised me to be." William nodded slowly, studying Marcus's face. "Your grandmother raised you well. And speaking of family, Dr. Martinez mentioned you have a wife and daughter." "Yes, sir, Patricia and Jasmine. Jasmine just turned 6. 6 is a wonderful age, full of questions and wonder." William smiled. "I have 3 children myself. They're older now, 12, 10 and 7, but I remember when they were 6. Everything was magic and possibility." They talked for a few minutes about families, about children, and Marcus felt himself relaxing slightly. William Hartwell might be a successful businessman, but he was also a father, a son, a human being who understood what mattered. Finally, William set down his water glass and leaned forward slightly. "Mr. Johnson, I'm going to be direct with you. After my mother told me your story, I made some inquiries. I hope you don't mind, nothing invasive, just public records and some discreet questions to people in your community." Marcus felt his shoulders tense slightly. What kind of inquiries? William's expression softened. "When my mother was first hospitalized, one of the nearby buildings shared their security footage with us so we could understand what had happened. That's how we saw you stop to help her. At least 31 people had walked past before you came along, Mr. Johnson. 31 people who saw an elderly woman in distress and decided their morning coffee or meeting was more important than a human life." Marcus didn't know what to say to that. Afterward, William continued, "I wanted to know more about the man who'd done what so many others wouldn't. So I did some follow-up, looked into your background a little. I know about your construction experience, about your accident 3 years ago. I know you've been struggling to find steady work since then. I know you have a wife who's been working 2 jobs just to keep things going." His voice was calm, respectful. "And I know about the Thompson and Associates interview, the one they canceled when you were 4 minutes late. I also know that you've been doing odd jobs around your neighborhood for the past few weeks, helping people for whatever they could afford to pay." Marcus felt his face flush, a mixture of embarrassment and something like shame, even though he knew he had nothing to be ashamed of. "I appreciate your thoroughness, sir, but I didn't help your mother expecting anything in return. I know you didn't. That's exactly why I want to help you now." William stood and walked to his desk, retrieving a folder. "I run several companies, Mr. Johnson. Real estate is our primary business, but we also own a logistics and property management firm that handles maintenance, deliveries and operations for all our properties across 3 states. We're currently looking for a logistics coordinator to oversee our supply chain and vendor relationships. This position requires someone with substantial logistics experience, which you have from your 8 years in construction." William continued, "Someone who can manage multiple projects and vendors simultaneously, who can think strategically but act practically, who can solve problems creatively under pressure. Your construction background gives you hands-on understanding of supply chains, scheduling and coordination. Your recent work doing odd jobs shows flexibility, resourcefulness and the ability to build relationships with diverse people. Mr. Hartwell, I don't know what to say. Say you'll interview, that's all I'm asking. Come in Monday morning, meet with my operations director Catherine Rodriguez. Let us evaluate whether you're a good fit and whether we're a good fit for you. No pressure, no obligation, just an opportunity. Monday morning." Marcus looked up from the folder. 9 o'clock if that works for you. Catherine is exceptional at what she does. She's been with me for 8 years and she runs our operations with remarkable efficiency. She'll be conducting the interview, not me. I want this to be a genuine evaluation, not a formality. Yes, I'll be there, sir. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Catherine has high standards, and she won't go easy on you just because I sent you her way. You'll have to prove yourself. William smiled, but based on what I've learned about you, I don't think that will be a problem. Marcus looked up from the folder. Why are you doing this? William turned to the window. The city spread out below. 3 years ago, I nearly lost everything. I just founded Hartwell Enterprises, poured in every dollar, even mortgaged my home. Then my contractor went bankrupt, leaving me with debt and an unfinished building. I was 1 day from bankruptcy. He smiled faintly. That night my mother saw right through me. When I told her the truth, she said failure wasn't losing money, it was giving up or compromising your values. Then she gave me her retirement savings and told me to keep fighting. She saved my business and reminded me that doing things the right way matters more than profit. William sat back down. When I heard what you did for her, I thought about that moment. One act of faith can change everything. You gave her time. I want to give you opportunity. My mother taught me success means nothing if you don't lift others up. Marcus's throat tightened. I was angry that day, but my wife was proud I did the right thing. You deserve each other, William said, standing. Think about the offer. If you decide to accept, be here Monday morning. Marcus shook his hand. I'll be here, sir. Thank you. They shook hands, and William's assistant appeared to escort Marcus back to the elevators. As Marcus rode down, clutching the folder like a lifeline, he felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years: genuine, solid hope. Not the desperate hope of a drowning man grasping at anything that might save him, but real, founded hope built on someone seeing his value, on an opportunity that felt right, on the possibility that maybe, just maybe, doing the right thing hadn't cost him everything, after all. Maybe it had actually opened a door to something better. He pulled out his phone the moment he stepped outside and called Patricia. She answered on the first ring. "Well, I have an interview Monday morning. Real job, real opportunity, with a company that seems to value character as much as skills." Marcus's voice was shaking with emotion. The salary, it's almost double what Thompson was offering. And the benefits, we could actually have a life. A real life. Patricia's cry of joy was so loud he had to pull the phone away from his ear. He could hear her telling Jasmine, could hear his daughter's excited squeals in the background. "Tell me everything," Patricia demanded. "Every single detail." And Marcus did, standing on the sidewalk outside Hartwell Enterprises, telling his wife about William Hartwell, about Eleanor's recovery, about the job opportunity, and the interview on Monday, and the feeling that maybe finally things were about to change for them. When he got home an hour later, Jasmine met him at the door and launched herself into his arms. "Daddy's going to get a good job. Mommy said we might be able to move to a bigger place." "Slow down, baby girl. I haven't gotten the job yet. I just have an interview." "But you're going to get it," Jasmine said with absolute confidence, "because you're smart and good and you saved that lady's life. They'd be silly not to hire you." Marcus held his daughter close, breathing in her strawberry shampoo scent, and thought about how nearly 4 weeks ago he'd sat in a park wondering if doing the right thing had cost him everything. And now he was holding his daughter who believed in him completely, about to interview for a job with a company run by a man who valued character and integrity. Life was strange, full of unexpected turns, of moments that seemed like endings but were really beginnings, of choices that felt impossible but turned out to be exactly right. "Go do your homework, baby," Patricia said, gently extracting Jasmine from Marcus's arms. "Let me talk to Daddy for a minute." Once Jasmine was in her room, Patricia pulled Marcus onto the couch and held both his hands. "Do you really think you have a chance?" she asked quietly. "Or are you just hoping?" "Both. The operations director is conducting the interview, not William. He was very clear that it's a real evaluation, not a formality. But he believes in me. He sees something worth investing in. That has to count for something. It counts for everything." Patricia squeezed his hands. "You're going to go in there Monday and show them exactly what you're capable of. And then you're going to come home with good news. I can feel it. Don't jinx it." "I'm not jinxing anything. I'm just stating facts. You're talented, experienced, hard-working and honest. Any company would be lucky to have you." They spent the weekend preparing like they had for the Thompson interview, but this time it felt different, less desperate, more confident. Patricia quizzed him on logistics scenarios, helped him research Hartwell Enterprises' properties and operations, practiced his answers until they felt natural rather than rehearsed. On Sunday evening Mr. Henderson knocked on their door again, this time holding a different tie, a deep forest green that he said had been his own wedding tie. "Michael's tie brought you one opportunity," the old man said. "Mine will bring you success in the interview. Call it a complete set." Marcus tried to refuse, but Mr. Henderson was insistent. "You've done more for this community in 3 years than most people do in a lifetime, Marcus. Let us help you for once." That night, lying in bed with Patricia curled against his side, Marcus felt a peace he hadn't experienced in 3 years. Not because success was guaranteed, it wasn't, but because he'd done the right thing, and it had led him here. To this moment, this opportunity, this chance to prove his worth to people who seemed to see it already. "Whatever happens Monday," he whispered to Patricia in the darkness, "thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself, for standing by me through everything, for being proud of me, even when I felt like a failure." "You've never been a failure," Patricia murmured sleepily. "You've just been waiting for the right opportunity, and I think it's finally here." Marcus closed his eyes, pulled his wife closer, and let himself believe it might be true.
Tomorrow would tell. Monday morning dawned clear and cool, another perfect autumn day. Marcus was awake before his alarm, too energized to sleep. He dreamed of the interview, focused dreams, not anxious ones, his mind rehearsing even in sleep. He showered, shaved twice, and dressed carefully. Mr. Henderson's forest green tie looked sharp against his white shirt, and Patricia had worked magic with the iron. She made him breakfast though he claimed he was too nervous to eat. At the door she straightened his collar. "Stop fussing," she said. "You look professional, like someone who knows his worth. What if Catherine Rodriguez doesn't see what William sees? Then she's missing something obvious, but I doubt that. William Hartwell didn't build a company by hiring people who can't recognize talent." She kissed him softly. "Go show them who you are." Marcus arrived at Hartwell Enterprises by 8:30, early as always. The receptionist greeted him by name. William clearly had made arrangements and directed him to the 23rd floor. This floor was busier, more alive than the executive suite above. Phones rang, people moved with purpose, and the steady rhythm reminded Marcus of a well-run construction site, organized chaos producing results. A young receptionist led him to a bright conference room. "Miss Rodriguez will be right with you. Water, coffee, water, thank you." Marcus sat, breathing evenly. His ankle was only mildly sore, a good sign. He'd rested it all weekend. This was his chance. He couldn't let nerves undo him. The door opened. A woman in her late 40s entered, silver-streaked hair in a neat bun, sharp eyes, quiet authority. "Mr. Johnson, I'm Catherine Rodriguez, Director of Operations." Her handshake was firm, assessing but kind. "The pleasure's mine, Miss Rodriguez. Thank you for meeting with me. Please call me Catherine." She sat opposite him, tablet in hand. "I've reviewed your background, 8 years managing construction logistics. Different from what we do, but similar principles. Tell me about your most challenging project." Marcus didn't need his rehearsed script. "We were building a mixed-use complex under a tight deadline. 3 weeks before a major concrete pour, our primary supplier went bankrupt. No notice, nothing." Catherine raised an eyebrow. "How did you handle it?" "I analyzed what we needed, volume, specs, timeline, then called every supplier within 100 miles. Most couldn't meet demand. One smaller company agreed to try if we broke the pour into multiple smaller deliveries. It meant redesigning the entire schedule, but I coordinated with engineers and the city to extend permits and reorganized crews. 10 exhausting days later, we finished on time and even under budget." Catherine nodded, typing. "Good problem solving. How do you handle pressure?" "Pressure's part of the job. Construction taught me to stay calm when things go wrong. They always do. I break big problems into smaller ones, prioritize, communicate. Systems make pressure manageable." They talked nearly an hour. Vendor relations, conflict resolution, multi-project coordination. Marcus answered honestly, using real examples that showed how he thought. Catherine glanced at her tablet. "You mentioned an accident 3 years ago. How has that affected your work?" "I shattered my ankle falling from scaffolding. I can't do heavy labor anymore, but for coordination or management roles, it doesn't limit me. By day's end it aches, that's all, manageable." "I appreciate your honesty," she said. "Let me tell you about our operation." She outlined Hartwell Enterprises' logistics network, properties across 3 states, vendors from HVAC to landscaping, cost tracking, and delivery systems. Marcus followed easily. This was his element. "You'd manage 4 coordinators," she said. "Your role would be strategic, systems, contracts, problem solving. You'd report to me and collaborate with property managers." "That sounds exactly right," Marcus said. "A chance to use my experience on a larger scale." Catherine smiled faintly. "Good answer. Come, let me show you around." For 40 minutes, she toured him through the operations floor, a bright, busy space where coordinators handled calls and screens filled with schedules. Marcus noticed the small things, a calm tone during a tense vendor call, color-coded boards, teammates solving issues together. It felt efficient, human, real. Back in the conference room, Catherine poured fresh water. "Mr. Johnson, I'll be direct. Mr. Hartwell told me about your actions that day with his mother. That speaks to character, but I'm not offering this job because of that. I'm offering it because you have the skills and mindset we need. Marcus's pulse quickened, offering. You're qualified, she continued. You think strategically, act practically, and you'd fit our culture. The question is, do you want the position? I do, Marcus said immediately. I absolutely do. Good. The salary is $65,000 to start, with a review at 6 months. Benefits begin immediately. Health, dental, vision, retirement matching, vacation, sick leave, education assistance. Marcus felt dizzy. $65,000, more than he'd earned, even before his accident. There's one condition, she added. Background and reference checks. Standard procedure. It usually takes about 10 days. Assuming no issues, you'd start in about 3 weeks. Is that acceptable? Yes, absolutely. Catherine smiled, genuine this time, and extended her hand. Welcome to Hartwell Enterprises, Mr. Johnson. Pending that check, I'm excited to have you on the team. As he left the building, the city seemed brighter, sharper. He had a job, a real job, with benefits, stability and hope. He called Patricia the moment he stepped outside. Well, she asked, breathless. I got it, Marcus said, voice cracking. I got the job. Her cry of joy made passers-by turn and smile. He could hear Jasmine squealing in the background. Tell me everything. $65,000, full benefits, 3 weeks vacation. Catherine's tough but fair. The team's great. It's perfect. When do you start? In 3 weeks, just waiting on the background check. Oh my God, Marcus, this is really happening. They talked, laughing through tears, unable to stop smiling. When he hung up, a text arrived, from William Hartwell. Catherine just called me. Congratulations, Mr. Johnson. You earned this. Mother and I would love to have you and your family for dinner Friday to celebrate. Let me know if that works. Marcus texted back, we'd be honored, Mr. Hartwell. Thank you. You've changed our lives. You changed ours first, came the reply. See you Friday. He walked to the bus stop feeling lighter than air. The man who'd taken this bus a month ago had been desperate, uncertain whether doing the right thing had ruined him. This Marcus had proof that integrity could open doors after all. When he reached home, Jasmine was waiting by the window. She ran into his arms the moment he opened the door. Daddy got a job. Does this mean we can go to Disney World? Marcus laughed, spinning her around despite his ankle's protest. Maybe someday soon. Let Daddy start first. Patricia stood in the kitchen doorway, eyes bright with happy tears. I already called the diner, she said. 2 weeks notice. If we're careful at first, I can quit the cleaning job too. Maybe even find something I actually enjoy. Let's wait until the check clears, just to be safe. I know, she said softly. But for the first time in years, I can see a future where we're not just surviving. That evening they celebrated with takeout Chinese, a rare treat. Around their small table, they laughed and dreamed aloud. Can I get the shoes with lights when you walk? Jasmine asked through a mouthful of noodles. Yes, baby. New shoes, new clothes, whatever you need. Can we get a bigger apartment, with my own room? Maybe soon, Patricia said. One step at a time. Marcus saw the calculations flicker behind her smile, the quiet hope they hadn't dared before. That night, after Jasmine slept, they sat on their small balcony overlooking the city lights. Patricia's head rested on his shoulder, his arm circled her waist. They stayed silent for a long time, just breathing the cool air, absorbing the change. 4 weeks ago, Marcus said finally, I thought I'd lost everything. I was sitting in that park, wondering how to tell you I'd failed again. And now? Patricia asked. Now I know doing the right thing didn't cost us, it gave us this. He gestured at the skyline. William said sometimes losing one opportunity opens the door to a better one. He was right, she said. This feels meant to be. I'm just grateful, Marcus murmured. For this, for William believing in me, and for you never giving up. I never doubted you, Patricia said softly. You're a good man, Marcus Johnson. The world finally caught up to what I already knew. They sat like that, quiet and full of peace. For the first time in years, the future didn't feel like a fight, it felt like possibility. Marcus's phone buzzed one last time. A message from Catherine, looking forward to working with you. Fair warning, I have high expectations, but I also back my team completely. You're going to do great things here. Marcus smiled, holding Patricia closer as the city shimmered around them. After years of struggle, they had found their way back to hope, and this time, it felt solid. High expectations and complete support. Patricia read. That's exactly what you need. Someone who sees your potential and pushes you to reach it. I'm nervous, Marcus admitted. What if I can't meet her expectations? What if I'm not as good as they think I am? Then you'll learn and grow, and become that good. That's what you do, Marcus. You rise to challenges. You've been doing it your whole life. She squeezed his hand. Besides, you already proved the most important thing to them. You're someone who does the right thing, even when it costs you. Everything else, you can learn. Marcus nodded, letting her confidence bolster his own. She was right. He'd faced challenges before. The accident, the unemployment, the 3 years of struggle, and he'd made it through. This was just another challenge, but this time, it was a welcome one. A chance to prove himself, to use his skills, to build something. I love you, he said to Patricia. I love you too. Now let's go to bed. You need rest, and I need to stop crying happy tears before my face gets puffy. She stood and pulled him up. 4 weeks from now, our lives begin again. Better this time, stronger. As they went inside and checked on Jasmine one more time, she was sprawled across her bed, her stuffed unicorn clutched tightly, her face peaceful in sleep. Marcus thought about the journey from that morning, 4 weeks ago, to this moment. The terror of seeing Eleanor collapse, the desperation of carrying her to the hospital, his ankle screaming with every step, the despair of losing the Thompson interview, the long weeks of uncertainty and odd jobs and wondering if things would ever get better. And then William's call, the interview with Catherine, this new beginning. Life was strange and unpredictable, full of moments that seemed like endings but were really new chapters beginning, full of choices that felt impossible but turned out to be exactly right, full of grace and second chances and the persistent truth that sometimes, not always, but sometimes, good things really did happen to good people. Marcus closed his eyes that night, feeling something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in 3 years. Genuine, unqualified hope for the future. Not hope built on desperation or wishful thinking, but hope built on opportunity earned, on character recognized, on doors opening instead of closing. His ankle still ached from the long day, a quiet reminder of the road he'd walked, but the pain no longer felt like a weight. It was proof. Proof that even with a limp, he'd kept moving forward. 4 weeks until his new life began.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.